Hey folks, welcome to my channel. Happy, actually I guess I don't know if that's, I was about to say happy September 11th, but I don't know if that's an appropriate greeting because it's not really a holiday, but at least, I don't know, in remembrance of September 11th, hello. If many of you probably realize that I've been missing some videos here the past week or two. I didn't do a live stream last Friday. Things have just been really crazy here. Like I did a live stream a couple weeks ago, kind of explaining that lots of riots and stuff in our city. I was under a lot of stress, and I was trying to help with some of the rebuilding and stuff. So I took a little bit of time off, just like a week. But I'm back, and now from now on, I should be pretty regularly uploading and sticking back to my regular schedule. That's usually an upload of a video on Monday and a live stream on Friday at 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. Anyways, yeah, I'm glad to see those of you who are already here. Hi, Khadija. Thanks for joining. You sent me a DM in Instagram. All right, I'll have to check that out. So first of all, before we even get started, I want to hear from you guys. I'm interested in hearing from you. Saluton, Rafa. Dankon por spekti la rectancendon. I'm interested in hearing from all of you. That's the whole point of these live streams. So leave me a message, send a comment. Let me know who you are, where you're from, what language you're learning, what language you speak as your native language. I always enjoy just being able to see, who's watching and interact with you guys, and hopefully you can interact with each other. Maybe find someone that you can practice languages with, or whatever. Share, So I encourage you to share information on here. Anyways, yeah. So let me know where you're from, who you are, what language you speak, and what language you're learning, if you're learning any. And if you're not learning any language, then tell me why you're here. That I didn't mean that in a negative way. I meant that in I'm interested in why you're on a language learning channel if you're not learning a language. Cool. So today I want to talk about some of the things that we do that hold us back from making progress. Just really quick, can you explain about the usage of grammatical genders in languages? Yeah, I can. I'm going to come back to that because that's not related to what we're talking about, but I usually spend a long time taking questions at the end of the live stream, so we can do that afterwards. Yusuf says, I'm a big fan of yours, and I'm Indian. I speak Hindi, Urdu, and English at a native proficiency. I'm learning French. Excellent. All right, we got Jesus from Mexico. He says, I love languages. I'm learning English. Great. Khadija, I'm Moroccan. I speak 4 languages. Your video helps me a lot in linguistics. Thank you. Well, thank you for commenting. That Linguistics 101 series it's become really popular for people who are interested in linguistics from like a scientific point of view, not just language learning, right? Not just what should I do to learn a language, but how do scientists study languages? It's been really popular. So I'm going to continue. I am about to release a new video for that series coming up here pretty soon. In fact, I was going to release it a couple weeks ago, and things have just been way too crazy here. But now I'm back on track, and we should be able to release new my video releases are going to get back on track. Anyways, what are some things that we do that hold us back from making progress in our languages? Well, I would say one of the big things we do is we just don't know the proper way to learn a language. We actually don't know how our mind is built for learning languages. Not to say that your mind is built for learning languages as an adult, but in what way do adults learn languages, or what's the most effective way? A lot of us don't know these things. A lot of us think the best way to learn a language is by going to class, doing your homework, being diligent, doing lots of memorization, doing lots of studying, memorize the grammar rules, read through your whole textbook, And then by the time you acquire all this knowledge about the language, then you'll be able to speak it. This is a misconception that is kind of spread by people who don't understand how language learning really works. This is usually spread by people who have never actually learned a foreign language. Okay, if you've ever actually learned a language to proficiency, or if you've ever learned a language to the point where you are actually able to converse in the language, you know that there's a big difference from knowing all the facts and all the information about your language and actually practicing and becoming familiar with the way that the language works. All right, and I'm going to read you a little story here. I shared this on Twitter. This is a story about Nigel Richards, and the title of the story is Winner of French Scrabble title does not speak French. All right, and bear with me for just a minute. I'm just going to read through at least the beginning portion of this. All right. The Scrabble career of Nigel Richards went from great to astounding this week after he won the French language Scrabble World Championships. If you don't know what Scrabble is, it's the board game where you have, you make words using different tiles with letters on them, right? And you gain points by spelling long words. Okay. A New Zealand native, Richards has won several English language titles. His new victory follows weeks of studying a French dictionary. He doesn't speak French at all. He just learns the words, his friend and former president of the New Zealand Scrabble Association, Liz Fagerland, tells the New Zealand Herald. He won't know what they mean, wouldn't be able to carry out a conversation in French, I wouldn't think. It was only in late May that Richards began his quest to win the French world title, according to the French Scrabble Federation. That's when he set about memorizing the French Scrabble dictionary. Nigel Richards is the best Scrabble player of all time, hands down, says Scrabble expert Stephen Fetzis, who has also written a book about the game. As for comparisons of Richards' feats, Fetzis tells NPR, All Things Considered, that right now, Richards is like the Tiger Woods at his peak, and then Tiger saying, I think I'll also take up tennis, and then win Wimbledon next year. Richards is able to recall words very reliably. Here's how Fetzis says Richards does it, citing their previous discussion. Basically, what he does is he looks at a word list and he looks at dictionary pages. He can conjure up the image of what he has seen. He told me that if he actually hears a word, it doesn't stick in his brain. But if he sees it once, that's enough for him to recall the image of it. I don't know if that's a photographic memory. I just think it's something that his brain chemistry allows him to do. Fetzis adds, French Scrabble has 386,000 words. That's a lot. That's far more than in North American Scrabble of 187,000 words. But the game isn't just about words, Fetzis says. It's a game about mathematics. It's a game of strategy. It's a game of spatial relations and board geometry. You have to have a math brain to get great at Scrabble. Anyways, I'm going to stop reading the article here. All right, so what happened with this guy? He memorized every word in the French dictionary in order to be able to win French Scrabble. And he did win, okay? He memorized 386,000 words in French. And a lot of people who don't know about language learning would look at this feat and say, that's astounding. He knows every word in French now. He has to be fluent in French, right? Wrong. That's not how you learn a language. He has a lot of head knowledge, but head knowledge is useless. He knows facts and data and vocabulary words. That's it. But you need a lot more than that to be able to converse in a language, to be able to become proficient in a language, to be able to live life in the language, to have relationships using the language, right? He doesn't know what the words mean. Okay, he's memorized the spelling. He could list off French words in alphabetical order. but he can't use them. He doesn't have any practice using the language other than just probably spelling out the words with little Scrabble tiles. Okay, so there's a big difference in language learning between he learns the words, he learned all the facts, he learned all the information, and he actually practiced becoming proficient in using the language. All right, it's like if I pick up the guitar and I learn, excuse me, if I learn the name of every string, G, A, D, and I learn all the names of all the scales, right, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, I can learn all that, but I'm not going to be able to play the guitar until I practice using that muscle memory, until I practice putting those things into practice. All right, and that's what we do in language learning. We don't just memorize stuff. As Nigel Richards has demonstrated, you can have all the head knowledge in the world and not be able to use it. So there is memorization in language learning. There is head knowledge. There is information. But that's secondary to actually learning to put those things into practice. Okay. Rather than study your language, I don't like to refer to studying a language. I like to refer to practicing a language. All right. And you'll do a little bit of studying, right? Like you'll try to remember some grammar rules, maybe. You'll probably spend some time memorizing a few vocabulary words, but most of our experience in the language should come from using it. That's how you learn, not the other way around. I'm not saying it's a one or the other. I'm saying put your main focus on practicing and using the language rather than studying and learning the language. Okay, let's see. From India, I speak Tamil as my mother tongue. I am learning German. I also speak Malayalam, Kannada, and English at native proficiency. Excellent. We have some true polyglots here. Nave55 says, hi, I'm from the US learning Swedish. Hello. If I would say hello in Swedish, actually, I would say hello in all of these languages if I knew how to. I would imagine the Swedish word for hello is something like hallå or something. That's just a guess. Most Germanic languages have some similar greeting in that respect. I'm from Mexico and I finished my degree in translation this year during COVID times, LOL. Also, I'm a teacher. I teach Spanish, French, and English, and I'm trying to learn as many languages as I can. Excellent. Thanks for joining, Maggie. Brad Williams says, I'm from Arizona. I'm basically a beginner at learning Spanish. I've been learning for about, well, sounds like you're in a good place for learning Spanish, Brad. What part of Arizona do you live in, by the way? Skylar says, j'habite à Saint-Paul et j'habite dans le Wisconsin. J'habitais dans le Wisconsin quand j'étais jeune. Je peux en quelque sorte lire et écouter, mais je me sens que je ne peux pas encore bien parler. Well, that goes along perfectly with what I said, right? So Skylar can read and listen, but can't speak very well, all right? And that sounds to me like it falls very cleanly in line with the problem that Nigel Richards had. And I suppose, to be fair, Nigel Richards didn't have a goal of learning to speak French. He just wanted, his goal was to learn words so he could win at Scrabble. So I'm not condemning him for that. He achieved his goal, which is all he set out to do. Most of us wants to actually learn a language and become proficient in the language and be able to use the language for something other than just winning Scrabble. Okay. And so there just comes a point where you have to stop trying to study the language. Stop trying to learn the language from a textbook, learn the rules, learn vocabulary. You have to just start using it. You have to practice using the language, right? You can't get good at using the language if you're just studying rules. You have to use the language in order to get good at using it. There just comes a point where you have to, and different people will agree. There's different theories, right? Benny Lewis says, start speaking from day one. Use the language in real life situations as soon as possible. Okay, Steve Kaufman says, wait 3, 6, 8, 9 months. Wait until you're comfortable. Do a lot of reading and listening first, and then wait until you're comfortable, and then start speaking. We could debate that. Both sides will probably just say to each his own, but everyone agrees there has to come a point where you start speaking the language. Okay, it doesn't matter if you say start speaking from day 1 or start speaking after 9 months. You have to start speaking, or you'll just never learn to use the language. You can't study without speaking and then arrive at the point where you're able to speak the language just off of study. No matter how much you study, the first time you speak is going to be awkward. Your mouth won't make the right noises, right? You'll make noises. Is my hat look how lopsided my hat is. Your mouth is going to tend to make the noises that you're accustomed to in your native language. So yeah, if you get to the point where you can read really well, you can understand really well what you're listening to, that's excellent. You've done a good job in developing your comprehension. And if you can pinpoint, now my weakness is output. I can take a bunch of input in and understand, but I can't speak, I can't write, I can't formulate thoughts in my target language. Well, now you know what you have to practice, okay? And it has nothing to do with studying. Studying won't help you learn to speak, okay? You have to stop studying. It depends on your strategy, but you don't have to keep studying. What you have to do is start speaking. Speak as much as you can. Find anyone that will listen to you in your target language. Go to italki, pay for a tutor, go on HelloTalk, find someone who you can do a language exchange with. Go to interpals.com, go on Reddit, find someone who will speak to you. Look for friends on Facebook, find a Facebook group, start DMing people on Instagram or on Twitter. Go to the local restaurant of the country that where your language is from. Start talking their ear off. Find someone who will speak your language with you and who will allow you to speak to them. You can't bust out of your current level unless you start using it. All right, how can we practice target language? See, I'm way ahead of you guys. Okay. I just don't know how to improve my speaking. My vocabulary is good. What would you suggest? I'm out of ideas. Okay, yeah, like the last 3 comments, I just answered them all. Stop studying, start speaking, start using it. And you know what? It's going to be bad. It's going to start off awkward. You're going to make lots of mistakes. You're going to screw up. You're going to stumble over your words. You're going to say something wrong. And then after you say it, you're going to realize, I just screwed that up. Oh no, that was embarrassing. All right, it's messy, and sometimes it's not fun. It can be fun. You have to prepare your mindset for the right way to go about doing that. But you just have to be prepared that it's going to be uncomfortable. It's not going to be perfect. At times, it'll be gross. The way you speak the language is going to be disgusting, and you're going to feel dirty. It's not a good feeling, but after a while you get used to it, and people just start to realize, or you start to realize that people aren't going to judge you on making mistakes, right? Your friends, the people that you're talking to, are going to know, hey, this person is learning. We have to cut them some slack. They're learning. We're not going to judge them for that. We're going to cut them some slack. We're going to leave them alone, or not leave them alone, but we're not going to judge. We're here to help. And when they start doing that, you'll start to pick up, these people don't hate me for messing up their language. Okay. They don't crucify me when I make a mistake. They might laugh once in a while at your mistakes, and that can be embarrassing. but you learn to be okay with that. You learn that they're not actually being malicious most of the time, if they laugh because you made a mistake. Okay. And the sooner you can become okay with that and get comfortable with people laughing, chuckling when you make a mistake, or even if they're just very kind and very helpful and supportive, it's still embarrassing. But the sooner you can get used to that, once you get past that barrier, you're going to start practicing your language, and then you'll start progressing. How to pronounce the American R, just like this, R, It's a retroflex alveolar sound. So you kind of bunch your tongue up in the middle of your throat. R, it's like this, R. I don't, here, I'll send you a link to the Wikipedia page for that. Wikipedia.com. Wikipedia has a huge list of speech sounds. Retroflex, alveolar. Let's see, what do we call it? A voiced alveolar. Consonant. Voiced retroflex trill. We'll just look at retroflex consonant. Voiced retroflex. Yeah, I'll just send you this link here. It'll at least be a good start. I want to take the time to look it up during the middle of a live stream. Okay. What's your favorite language? This is from Roru. I don't necessarily have a favorite language. Maybe Esperanto is the most fun. Tokipona I also really enjoy because it's just so easy. It's insane how I can read a whole book. I wrote, The Little Dragon. I wrote this book in English. Someone else translated it into Tokipona for me. And I can read it. And I barely spent any time, like maybe a month studying Tokipona, off and on here and there over the course of several years. It's crazy how easy Tokipona is. Oh, James says he likes my ring. Yeah, I got this ring because I don't really like metal rings after I heard what happened to Jimmy Fallon. And not only him, but I've heard other horror stories of people like getting their ring caught on stuff. He was in the Marine Corps, and I heard about a guy who was like, swinging out of a helicopter, and his ring got caught on the on the door frame of the helicopter, and it ripped his finger off. So now I use a rubber ring because I don't think it's worth it. I also don't think metal rings are worth the money. We're going to spend like hundreds of dollars on a little chunk of metal. I bought a 6-pack of these rings on Amazon for $6. So that's $1 a piece. Okay, Brad Williams says, I live in Phoenix. I'm a truck driver, so I get down to the border with Mexico, and it will definitely benefit me to speak Spanish. Yes, it will. And you're going to have a lot of people to speak Spanish with. So I recommend you take advantage of that. All right, Yusuf says, French is the first language I am learning as an adult. There are 4 aspects to any language: listening, reading, writing, speaking. According to which aspect comes first as a learner of language? Well, so listening and reading both fall into the input category. Writing and speaking both fall into the output. I usually spend very little time learning to write. I learn reading, listening, and speaking. Okay, I don't neglect writing, but it's like the least valuable form for me, honestly. I usually only practice writing. I don't practice handwriting, honestly. I will type on a computer. I did a little bit of handwriting in Thai just because it was easier than using this huge keyboard with like 100 different letters on it. So sometimes I would practice writing in Thai. But for Greek, I don't practice handwriting in Greek. How often do I handwrite stuff, even in English? I do typing in moderation. Mostly I want to learn to listen and speak. All right. And the next most important thing is reading. So if I use the language, do I need the people who can correct my target language? There's some debate on how much correction is appropriate when you're learning a language. Especially towards the beginning, yeah, you're going to want someone who can correct you. But you don't want to make that the focus of your conversations, right? When you do tutoring lessons or, especially if you're paying someone to teach you, you don't actually want to take a lot of time doing exercises and making sure you get everything technically correct. Okay. You'll make a mistake here and there, and someone might correct you, and then you just try to remember that for next time. But the majority of your conversations should just be speaking. You want to spend as much time talking, not necessarily getting corrected. And there's a time and place for corrections, but not quite so much. All right, in Swedish, hello is hala or hey. You were spot on. Yeah, see, I mean, most of the Germanic languages are kind of predictable in that respect. Our use says, can we practice with ourselves? Yeah, absolutely. You're going to make mistakes by yourself, and that's not an ideal situation, but you can definitely practice pronunciation by yourself. I always recommend Pimsleur courses where the native speaker says something and then you repeat after them, trying to sound exactly like them or as close as possible. And that's useful, right? You're getting the muscle memory in your mouth. That's practice. That's not studying. That's not memorization. That's practice. And you build up muscle memory by going through the motions. Okay. I heard writing system of Thai is very hard. How are you learning it? The correct answer to that question is I'm not learning it. I'm essentially trying to maintain the small ability to read Thai that I already had when I lived in Thailand. I'm not actively learning Thai. And yes, it is extremely difficult. It's like probably, I would bet you this is the most difficult, not most difficult writing system, but the most difficult alphabet in the world. I mean, it's just insanely stupid. The Thai alphabet, the way the Thai rating system works is just stupid. And I apologize if you're a Thai person listening to me insult the characters of your language, the letters of your language. So I do try to do some reading in Thai. I still read Thai. I have I have some books designed for learning Thai, but I don't focus on that. Really, Thai has not been my focus lately. I still try to do a weekly lesson in Thai with an italki tutor, but at this point, I'm afraid that the studying that I'm doing in Thai is really only enough to slow my decline. I don't want to learn. I don't want to forget Thai because, I spent so long learning it, and I'm fascinated by languages. I want to be able to speak a non-Indo-European language. So ideally, I would love to be able to dedicate more time to learning Thai and continue to improve in Thai. At this point, is not really happening. I think the study that I'm doing in Thai right now is kind of slowing the decline of of my Thai, unfortunately. But I'm gonna keep pushing forward. So, all right. Too many choices. 1, I've studied Japanese for 10 months, but only been trying to speak for 2 months. I like to remember this fact and think I'm doing pretty good for a 2-month-old. It helps, LOL. Yeah, good. Like I said, there's different schools of thought when you should start speaking. And hey, I can see good and bad of both sides, right? I like the Benny Lewis approach of speak from day one. I understand the Steve Kaufman approach of do a lot of input first and then start speaking later. But you have to speak. At some point, you have to speak, and everyone agrees on that. If you're learning Japanese, you might be interested in listening to Matt from Japan, Matt versus Japan, or John Siebold. In fact, stay tuned for this coming Monday. I'm going to post an interview of myself. It was a sort of a debate between myself and John Siebold about how to about what kind of input you should be taking in your target language. John has been doing this mass immersion approach where he just listens to Japanese all day long, native level Japanese, and then he's like tries to soak it all in. And so we had a discussion about that. You can stay tuned for this Monday. There'll be a video of that coming out soon. Okay. Boki says, "Ayo guys, dang, good deal." Oh, good deal on the ring. Yeah. Okay. I like your channel name, mate. Yeah. This happens quite often. People ask me what Fingtem mean. Is it my name? Like, why did I choose that name? No, it's not my name. Fingtem. There's no grand meaning behind it. This is a Hungarian word, Fingtem, and I'm not going to tell you what it means. I'll tell you it's a Hungarian word. I learned this word when I was in Hungary, and then I made that my screen name. So you can go to Google Translate or something, look up Fingtem. And next lifetime, ask, are you ethnically Hungarian? No, I have no connection to Hungary or to the Hungarian language, other than I went to Hungary one time and I learned this word in the Hungarian language. So I'll let you guys look it up. Google Translate or something. Okay. What did you study at the university? I studied linguistics. And I got a major. I majored in applied linguistics, and I minored in French and Spanish, and I also got a certificate in teaching English as a second language. I majored in applied linguistics. At my university, there was two tracks. One was general linguistics, and the other one was applied linguistics. And there was like actually almost no difference between those two tracks. So just because I didn't think it mattered that much, I chose the applied linguistics track. I think when I go for my master's degree, I am not going to study applied linguistics. I will study like theoretical or empirical linguistics, like general linguistics. Applied linguistics being like, first there's some linguist, like a scientist, who goes out and studies something about language, right? They study syntax, morphology, I don't know, psychological linguistic, you know, like they do some study. They apply the scientific process, the scientific attitude to learning about language, and about how humans use language and stuff like that. And then there's applied linguists who like try to apply that to the real world. Like, for example, teachers who are teaching a language, and you know, maybe sociolinguists who are trying to apply policy based around what other linguists have discovered. I'm less interested in that, and I'm more interested in the, I don't know, it feels more academic or more scientific to me to study the way language works and to study the way that humans use language and interact with language. Okay, so there's that. All right. Okay, by the way, your explanation about how to pronounce the R in Spanish is one of the best ones I've seen. Great. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I did a video a while back. You can, I don't know if it'll come up, if it's like one of the first ones, how to pronounce R in Spanish, but I did a video. Let me go to YouTube really quick. I got to go to incognito tab. Go to YouTube. It's called, I think, like how to pronounce ere and R in Spanish. Yeah, I'm the first one that comes up. How to pronounce R and double R in Spanish. The most frustrating thing about this video is that I don't know what happened, but the video that I filmed got flipped horizontally somehow. So everything in the video is backwards. I don't know why that happened, but just so you know, if you're going to go watch that video to learn how to pronounce the R in Spanish, it's backwards for some reason, like horizontally backwards. Not the video plays in the right temporal direction. Okay, I have a friend from Ohio. Wait, I'm sorry. Can a person forget his mother language? You can forget your mother tongue, but only if you stop using it at a very young age. Like if you start, let's say I have a friend who they adopted a kid from Brazil, right? And this kid spoke nothing but Portuguese until he was like 4. And you know, a 4-year-old, maybe they haven't mastered the language, but a 4-year-old can speak the language, right? So that would be his first language, was Portuguese. And then was adopted by someone in America, lost the ability to speak Portuguese, and now speaks English as a native speaker. Okay, so it can happen. It's pretty rare, and you have to stop using it pretty early on for most people. All right, have you tried or reviewed Steve Kaufman's Link Reader? I am using it, and I find visible difference. Yeah, yes, I have. I've done a lot of reviews on Link. I love it. I think Link is one of my favorite resources for learning a language. I think using Link is kind of an indispensable part of learning a language right now. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to use it to learn Thai because they don't have Thai on Link yet. By the way, if you guys are interested in Link, I'm going to leave a little URL here. I'm going to leave a link here, a URL. I just put it into the comment section. If you're already going to purchase a subscription to Link, you can get a 35% discount by clicking on the URL that I just put in there. And then I also get a small commission back for that. So I would, you know, if you're already going to purchase a subscription, I would appreciate you using that link. But I'm not trying to, you know, you have to decide for yourself if you think it's worth it to subscribe to Link. It's not that expensive. It's like $10 a month or something. And also if you use the link that I just put in there, then you get a pretty big discount, like over a third of the price. It gets discounted, 35%. Okay. Can a person forget his mother tongue? Okay, there's an exercise for interpreting called shadowing, and I think that it's a very good way to practice pronunciation. Yeah, that's where you like where you practice, where you like say something after someone. I mean, it's like, okay, I love Pimsleur because I hear a native speaker say a sentence in my target language, and then I immediately repeat it after them, trying to sound exactly like them as I can. And I think that's done wonders for my pronunciation. It has really helped me, particularly in French. Also in Thai to some extent. Unfortunately, with Thai, Pimsleur only has one course, one unit. But especially in French, where I took it through Unit 1 I did French from Unit 2 to Unit 5, and I think that helps my French pronunciation a lot. And I learned very quickly. So I really, yeah, I do. I think that's a great way of learning. As far as interpreting goes, I've done some interpreting for like public speaking events and stuff. Man, that's tough. It's really hard for me to interpret, especially when I'm on stage when you're already a little bit nervous. So in all of the events that I ever interpreted for, the speaker would say something in English or in Spanish, and then stop and pause for me to interpret what they said into the microphone. And then after I interpreted, then they would go and say the next thing. All right. And that's tough. Of course, I'm not trained in that. So like there's some specialty training that you can do to get better at that. I didn't have any training other than just being bilingual. That's tough though. I have the utmost respect for people who can translate while someone is just talking and not stopping to pause for them to translate. Like if you can do that, if you can listen to someone speaking a language nonstop, you know, like UN translators or whatever, or like you know, international diplomacy. Like, you know, sometimes you, I don't know, probably if you watch the Olympics in, maybe not the Olympics, but you know, if you're going to watch some kind of international deliberation in your mother language, then a lot of times someone's going to be speaking and they have someone translating live without giving that person a pause for the translation. That's so difficult. I don't know how people do that. I never could. I've tried before, like I've turned on the Spanish radio channel and I listen to them speaking Spanish and I try to translate it into English while they're speaking. I can't do it. Just so hard. All right. Oh, Forever Learning French says, salut, Aaron. Just getting off work. Salut. Thanks for joining. All right. Also say about best way to learn sign languages. Unfortunately, I don't know any sign languages, so I can't help too much on that. I would imagine learning a sign language is similar to English, where you can do a little bit of study, a little bit of memorization, but you have to spend 90% of your time practicing and using the language in order to improve. And like maybe 5 to 10% of your time studying and memorizing. All right, Yusuf Ali says, can you do a video on the R in French? I have done a video on the R in French, actually. I'll put a link in here. How to pronounce French R. You see if my video comes up in here. How to pronounce the French R. Okay, I'm going to put a link in here for you, Yusuf. There you go. All right. Maggie says, it is very hard, and there are experts that say you can't work as an interpreter during your whole life because you can have some brain damage. Yeah, it's extremely difficult. I don't know if that could cause brain damage or not, but that sounds more like a myth to me, but I don't know. Anyways, Esther B says, no, it's not. Not sure what that's in reference to. It's not hard to translate, to interpret live. Is that what you're saying? Anyways, okay. Maggie says simultaneous interpreting is insane. The consecutive one is way easier, but still it's hard. Yeah, I agree. I can do interpreting when the person pauses and allows me time to first think of my interpretation and then say it. I cannot interpret simultaneously. Just too difficult. Forever Learning French says, after several months of trying to learn French on my own, I finally got an iTalker tutor. I wish I had started speaking to people sooner. Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's the whole point of this live stream. Rochelle, I don't think you probably were here for the early part. I talked about this guy. He was a Scrabble expert, okay? And he was the world champion of Scrabble, actually. He was the English world champion of Scrabble. But remember, there's also Scrabble in other languages. So after winning the world championship for Scrabble like 3 times, he decided he was going to compete in the world French Scrabble, the French World Scrabble tournament. He didn't speak French though. So rather than learning French, he decided what he was going to do was memorize every word in the French dictionary. This is a true story. I'm going to share the link with you all here, actually. Many of you probably are just joining. Okay, there's a link to the article about this guy who memorized every word in the French dictionary and cannot speak French. He doesn't speak French. He knows every word in French. That's 386,000 French words that he has stored in his brain. Can't speak French. All right? Because the way to learn a language is not through head knowledge. The way you learn a language is by exposing yourself to that language and practicing using that language. Okay? You do a little bit of studying. You do a little bit of memorization. Okay? You do a little bit of work and homework assignments. Okay? You try to learn information and get head knowledge about the language. But that's like 5% of what you do. 90 to 95% of what you should be doing is exposing yourself to the language and practice using it. Okay, I made this analogy earlier. I can pick up this guitar and learn every note on this guitar, right? G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You know, and I can go up and down this fretboard and learn every single note. And I can even learn every single chord. Okay? I can learn the name of every chord, every note. That's just head knowledge. If I know every note, but I never actually practice if I never practice strumming and playing a song, it does me no good to know what the notes are because it takes a different set of skills. It takes a different set of muscle memory in order to be able to play. Okay, you can't just read a book on aviation and become a pilot. You have to practice using the controls. Okay, you can't just know what the gauges and the lights on your dashboard mean. You have to practice using them. You have to get a feel for how to do it. You got to spend time in the simulator first, right? It takes years of practice, or at least months of practice, doing it over and over and over again. Not just knowing the information. That's not enough. And just knowing the information about a language, knowing the words, knowing the grammar, knowing the rules, it's not enough. You have to use it. Do you think writing is important with memorizing vocabulary? No. I very rarely write when I'm memorizing vocabulary. It does depend on what you want to do. I mean, if writing is going to be important to you for what you want, then yeah, practice that. For me, with learning Greek, I'm not actually interested in writing Greek. I want to learn to read Greek. So I do very little writing practice. I actually don't do any handwriting practice at all, period. I do a little bit of typing practice on like Duolingo, but that's very minor. It's mostly listening, reading, and a little bit of speaking. All right, Eden says, I want to study linguistics and then go on to teach English abroad in Spain, ideally. Do you think I should study 4 years or get teaching experience? Well, I don't know what your background is. Most places, if you want to teach overseas, if you want to teach English overseas, you need to have a bachelor's degree. You need to have a 4-year university degree, and you need to have a TESOL certificate, or TEFL certificate. like an ESL certificate on top of a 4-year degree teaching English. Also, very often you need to be a native speaker of English from certain countries. Okay, so it's pretty specific. For me, you know, I am a native speaker of English from America with a 4-year degree and a ESL certificate. Okay, usually your degree doesn't have to be related to languages or English. Okay, you could have a 4-year degree in marketing or a 4-year degree in nursing, but if you have that ESL certificate, all you need is the degree. It depends on the country, though. I think there's usually a way that you can find somewhere to go overseas and teach English without a 4-year degree, but you're not going to get paid as much. Sometimes you're going to get paid under the table. Like you can do it in China. It's actually illegal to teach English in China without a degree. But you can find some companies that will take you in and pay you illegally. I'm not recommending you do that. Best thing to do is to get a degree and do it legally, and then you'll also get paid more. Okay, but isn't it harder than to learn French? Like, it's the memorizing hundreds of thousands of telephone numbers if you don't associate the words with the sense of them. It sounds like the guy in this article, you know, I linked to the article just earlier. It sounds like he had a mind that was very fine, like very keen. It was just like fine-tuned for memorizing information. Okay. And he was able to look at the page and just remember the words. Okay. That's a different skill from being able to process the information and use it fluently in conversation. Just being able to memorize stuff really easily doesn't mean that you can fluently, that your brain will work through all of that and fluently be able to use it in conversation. Okay, so for him, memorizing the entire French dictionary was easier than learning to use those words in a conversation in French. He's got to be one of the very few people in the world who knows every word in French. Like, honestly, how many people in the entire world could there be who know every single word? That's 386,000 words. Probably you could count them on one hand, and one of those people doesn't even speak French. Who knows if there even is anyone else? Like, it's got to be a very small percentage of people who have the motivation to take the time to memorize every word in the French dictionary. And he did it, and he doesn't even speak French. Okay, also, how important do you think it is to pick a Spanish accent or dialect? Not important, not important at all. My Spanish dialect is like a bastard dialect of Castilian, like European Spanish, Salvadoran Spanish, Colombian Spanish, Mexican Spanish, a little bit of Costa Rican Spanish. It doesn't matter, right? Like, you speak Spanish, other Spanish-speaking people can understand you. Sometimes you'll get into like someone from Argentina or Uruguay might be difficult to understand, or maybe someone from Paraguay. I've had some friends from Paraguay where it's difficult for me to understand them. I don't know, maybe someone from Equatorial Guinea, or like, I don't know, do they still speak Spanish in the Philippines? Like, there might be, I don't know. There probably are some Spanish dialects that are so difficult. One time I went to Cartagena, Colombia, and it was hard for me to understand them. Generally speaking, you speak some neutral version of Spanish and everyone will be able to understand you, right? Like, I had no problem understanding someone who's from Madrid, someone who's from Mexico City, someone who's from Bogota, even someone who's from Buenos Aires. They have some weird stuff going on with their accent there, but it's not hard for me to understand them. Okay. Okay. I'm learning English right now, and I can understand basically everything, but I want to know if you have some tips to increase my active vocabulary. Just practice. Yeah, do a lot of reading. Read things that are interesting to you. All right, don't read a textbook in English unless, maybe if you're a grammar nerd like me, then you can read a textbook in English, and that's fascinating. Read a novel, read a history book, read whatever fascinates you. Find a book that keeps you up at night reading, and you don't want to put it down because you're fascinated in the content of the book. Okay, find a podcast that you like listening to. Find a YouTuber who talks about things that a YouTuber who talks about your hobbies. Okay, that'll get lots of input. It'll give you lots of exposure to words in the language, and then find someone to speak with regularly. Find someone that you can have a conversation with so that you can use the words that you learned in the book that you're reading or in the podcast that you're listening to. Okay, even with the method you said, tonal languages are still hard, and there are any efficient method. You're right. If you come from a language that's not tonal, like me, learning tones is difficult. I found that one thing that really helps me learn tones is when you take one word or one, I don't know what you would say, one combination of consonants and vowels, like ma, okay? And then you repeat them in all the different tones together, right? Like, so in Thai, you have ma, you have ma, 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 ma. Gosh, I can't even think of them all now. Okay, so there's ma, which is come. There's ma, which is horse. Then ma, which is dog. And then there's ma. And what's the other one? Ma, 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 ma. Yeah, and then you do them all together in succession. Ma, 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 ma. So mid, low, high. No, falling. Low, rising. You do them all together in whatever the tones are in your language, right? Like in Mandarin, I guess there's 4 tones. In Cantonese, there's like, what, 8 or 9 tones? You practice them all together on different words, on different combinations of vowels and consonants. That helped me. I'm not the expert on how to learn a tonal language, though. And then just lots of speaking, listening and speaking. All right, you got to get that muscle memory and pronouncing the word like the native speaker does. Okay, some teachers say that we should translate while we are learning a language, but if we do that, it will be a little bit hard to learn words definitions. You should translate? Oh, shouldn't translate. I am pretty forgiving with people who want to translate early on, right? Like you do a memorize course, memorize deck, you translate the words on memorize, right? You make flashcards with translations. You go on Link and you look at words that, you click on the word and see the translation, especially early on. At some point, you need to stop translating in your head. And when that happens can be up to you. It'll probably actually be more of a slow progression. Try not to translate as early as possible. It's not really going to be super feasible. There are some methods where people say like no translation at all. It's up to you. I translate early on. I do. But I try to get out of that as soon as possible. Yeah. So I'm not on either end of the spectrum, no translation or always translate. But I lean a little bit more towards the never translate, but I'm not at the extreme there, right? I don't say never translate. I say translate at the beginning, try to get out of it pretty quick as soon as you can. Okay. Okay. So Jack says, after Pimsleur, SML program is good for French or not? I've never actually used the SML program, to my great shame. I've heard it's good. I've heard good things. I just like Pimsleur so much. I've never had any reason to not use it. I should try SML sometime. Like, it's so popular, and I'm a language YouTuber, so I should be familiar with all these different things. Yeah, I'll have to try it sometime. Maybe I will. All right, Rasmus says, hello, how's it going? How is the situation in your city? Thanks, Rasmus. Situation in my city is getting better. It is better. As far as I know, there's no riots or protests or anything. I mean, I don't mind protests, but a lot of buildings have been burnt down. It was really sad. But there has been a big community outreach. A lot of people have come to help. Big donations and stuff, and GoFundMe's, and the president is donating a bunch of money to help rebuild some of the buildings that were burnt down, and so things are getting better. Like, the worst is over, I think. Business as usual. I'm back here again. I missed my live stream last week. I just had so much stuff going on. But it's things are good. Yeah, doing really well. Okay. Okay, my English accent, this is from Maggie. My English accent is the American one. How can I slowly start learning other accent in English? Where do I start? Start watching Harry Potter. Watch Faulty Towers. Watch Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Listen to the Beatles speak. Yeah, listen to the British accent. Try to repeat words similar to the way that they do, if that's what you want to do. That's all I can say. Just listen to the way they speak and think, how is their pronunciation different from mine? You don't have to think that consciously, but just listen to the way they say something and then try to repeat it as closely as you can. Rasmus says, I think I arrived at the end of your stream yet again. Yes, you did. I am going to be probably logging off here pretty soon, but it's okay. I appreciate you catching the end of my streams all the time. All right, something in Arabic. I'm sorry, I don't speak Arabic, so I can't pronounce your name. I want to learn German, but I don't know how to start. I mean, what is the method to learn a new language? All right, Duolingo, Pimsleur, Link. That's where I would tell you to start, those three. As well as italki. Okay. italki, find a good tutor who is willing to have conversations with you. You don't want a tutor who's going to take you through a textbook. All right. Obviously, if you speak no German, you're not going to be able to have deep conversations in German, right? But you want someone who can at least teach you some basic phrases and practice using those phrases with you. All right. Maybe you can say, hey, I'm learning German on Pimsleur, and here's the phrases that they taught me on Pimsleur. Can we practice these phrases? Okay. So Duolingo, only for the beginning, like first 3 to 6 months, you can use Duolingo. Pimsleur, also good for the first 3 to 6 or 9 months. Link will be good forever. italki will be useful for, like, I don't know, 2 years, depending on how quickly you learn. And then HelloTalk. As soon as, like, after the first month or so, you can start using HelloTalk to have conversations with other people who speak German. That's like the 1, 2, Duolingo, Link, Pimsleur, italki, HelloTalk. Those are my, I don't know why I did it like this. Those are my 5 language learning resources that you should be using if you can. Also, there's a good German series called Extra. You can type it in on YouTube. Just type in Extra German Episode 1. In fact, I'll just send you the link here. Okay. Here's the link. If you're learning English, French, Spanish, or German, I recommend the TV show called Extra. They're all free on YouTube. You can watch the entire series. Okay. great content. When you listen, wait, I'm sorry. Okay, some still speak Spanish in the Philippines. Other schools and universities still teach it as a mandatory subject. Yeah, that's what I thought. It used to be a colony of Spain, I think, right? But it's not like the main language there anymore, is my understanding. Thank you for your videos. They were very helpful. Thanks, Ryan. All right, Prodigy A says, great content. When you listen to a foreign language, do you picture the written word to help with your comprehension? No, I don't. Not at all. Especially not in Thai. I can barely read Thai. My speaking in Thai is much better than my reading, so I don't do that. Same in Greek. I can understand and speak Greek better than I can read it. All right. Shall I buy a book of grammar, or can I learn from YouTube? You can use a grammar book. I use some on occasion. Do not expect a grammar book to help you learn to speak the language. Okay, this goes back to what I was saying earlier with the Scrabble guy. Right, he memorized every word in French, every freaking word. Can't speak French. It doesn't matter how much memorization you can do. Right, memorization and learning actually have very little with the process that it takes to become fluent and speak a language. What you should do is expose yourself to the language, speak it as much as you can, read and listen as much as you can. Do a little bit of studying, 5% of your study time. Okay, study some grammar rules, do some memorizing of vocabulary words. But by and large, you want to practice using the language, not studying the rules and grammar. I feel like once you understand a phrase or structure, you can fight your mind's effort to translate and say, stop, I understand this. I can answer without translating. But I guess it depends. Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, I agree. I have done that before. Like, all right, I'm going to look at these words. I'm going to read the words in Spanish. And once I get to the end of the sentence, I'm going to say, did I understand what I read? And if I did, then there's no need to go back and say, all right, yo means I, and tengo means I have, and then un means a, right? Can I get to the end of the sentence and understand what it said? If I can do that, I'm not going to translate the words. Okay. Thanks for this. Good to hear it is. Yeah, good to hear it's calming down. Thank you. I appreciate it. I want you to review Busu and Babbel. I feel like I've done a review on Babbel before. Let me see. Yeah, I did do a review on Babbel a few years ago. Here, I'll send that one. Oops.
Hey. Hey, what's up, guys?
All right, I'm going to send the link to the Babbel. Okay, just one second. All right. There's a link to my Babbel review to, who was it? To Yusuf. Okay, he says, can you suggest some good movies and Netflix show for learning French? Just do a Google search for that. I recently watched, what's it called? Good Cop, Bon Cop. Bon Cop, Bad Cop. That's a Canadian French movie. I liked it. Also, I've been watching Umbrella Academy and Stranger Things with French subtitles, which I've heard conflicting reports on studies that have done. Like, is it going to be really useful to put on French subtitles while watching an English show? No. But on occasion, I see a word in French on the subtitles. I'm just watching Stranger Things with my wife because we want to watch Stranger Things, right? On occasion, though, I'll look down at the subtitles and see a word and think, oh, hey, there's that French word I forgot about, right? Or here's a French word that I didn't know. And, it's a little bit helpful. I don't think it's any worse for my French than if I just watched Stranger Things without the subtitles. So, I do that. All right, you said that you will explain about role of grammatical genders in languages. Ah, yes. Okay. Well, do you have a specific question about grammatical gender? There's not a whole lot to say other than languages like English, we don't have a whole lot of grammatical gender other than he and she. Sometimes we do it for words like waiter and waitress, actor, actress, steward, stewardess. Other languages like Spanish divide they divide every noun into masculine and feminine. And it actually has nothing to do with the noun itself, right? Like vestido, dress, is a masculine word in French. In Spanish. You would assume a dress would be like a feminine thing. It's a masculine word because it has nothing to do with the word itself. It's like randomly and arbitrarily assigned a gender. In French, you have le vagin and la pénis, right? Penis and vagina are penis is feminine, and vagina is masculine. I believe that's correct. It has nothing to do with the word itself, because that's just not what grammatical gender is for. Now they do usually apply to people, right? Like in French, une femme is feminine, une fille is feminine. A woman and a girl are feminine. Un garçon and un homme in French are masculine. Then you get words like, you get languages like Greek. Oh, also in Spanish, you have words like una persona. Yo soy una persona. I am a person. Okay. Persona is a feminine word. Person is feminine in Spanish. But even though I'm a man, I would say una persona. Yo soy una persona. Because person is a feminine word. Yeah. Chaos 27 says German is full of grammatical genders, right? Like, I don't know German too much, but in Greek you have 3 genders. You have masculine, feminine, and neuter, right? And you have like e gyneka, the woman, is feminine. It's a is feminine, e gyneka. You have oandras, the man. It's masculine. But then you also have tokoritsi, toagori. They're neuter. The girl and the boy are neuter gender. They don't have a gender. I guess they have a gender. The gender is neuter. And you would expect the boy to be masculine and the girl to be feminine, but they don't. Languages don't work the way you would expect them to. Toki. Okay, I'm gonna answer these last few questions here, and then unfortunately I'm gonna have to cut it off because I'm getting hungry. Okay. Okay, what are the common words that are mispronounced? Sorry, kind of off topic. In English, girl and squirrel. These are the common words that are mispronounced in English. I'm not entirely sure what you're looking for. Also, beach. Got to be very careful with the word beach if you're not a native speaker of English. Forever Learning French says, I've been listening to News in Slow French. It's very helpful and has free segments on Pandora. Yeah, excellent. That's great because you're not translating anything and you're getting lots of exposure. You're practicing listening to the language. That's what you should be doing. Okay, OMG, the new Umbrella Academy season made me want to learn Swedish, LOL. Yeah, me too. All right, German, is French, in French, mustache is feminine. Yeah, exactly. Those kind of things. It doesn't make any sense. There's a TV series called Plein Cœur, which I didn't fully like, but it is good for learning slang. And there's one that I loved called Marianne, a horror one. I watched that in French with French subtitles. Good. All right. Someone says Toki, Otoki, e Toki Pona. Let me see. Mi ken ala Toki e Toki Pona. Mi wile kamasona e Toki Pona. That's all I can say. Toki Pona li Pona tawa mi. My Toki Pona is very limited. All right, this is a appreciation message. I am very thankful because the video about phonology helped me a lot in my report as a college student taking English as my major. Do you have any tips or recommendations? Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't know what kind of tips you're looking for. I can recommend a really good YouTube series. Like, I'm still working on my Linguistics 101 series, right? But there's one called the Ling Space. My friends and I used to binge watch this channel before any of our exams on linguistics when I was in college. And so it's really good if you're a college student in linguistics. It's also just really interested if you want to learn more about the way language works, all right? And for those who don't know, I have to say this all the time. Linguistics has nothing to do with learning a language. Linguistics is about studying the way that language works. Moti Lieberman at the Ling Space will do a much better job than I will at explaining this. So I recommend his channel. Okay, Banana Tree Labs says, Toki. Okay, do you have any applied linguistics masters MA to be recommended in the USA? University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee is the only one I can recommend, and it's a really good school. Fortunately, I just happens to live really close to a good school that has really good linguistics program. Okay, do you have, okay, when should exposure start? At the moment the news, etc. in Thai is all just noise to me. Yeah, you want to start exposure right away, like immediately. You can look up Thai Pod 101. They can give you some decent exposure to Thai that's easy, right? Like, yeah, you're right. You can't just listen to input, or you can't just get exposure to the language in mass form. People will argue with that. Again, wait for this Monday. I have a debate with John Siebold talking about mass immersion. You don't want to just be swimming in a sea of words that you don't understand, right? It won't help you to just listen to noise. It will help you if they speak slowly and clearly, designed for beginners, and they're giving you a message that is easy for you to understand. That is good exposure to the language, all right? So find beginner level stuff. If you're learning Thai, you know, I have an ebook called, I forget the Makrok Noi. You know, it's the little dragon translated into Thai. It's designed to be very easy to understand, even if you don't understand the language, right? That's what the pictures are for, and it has very short sentences and stuff. That's what you need to look for. Like Rochelle said earlier, or Forever Learning French, news in slow French, all right? She's not listening to the news. She's not listening to, you know, state addresses by Emmanuel Macron. she's listening to the news in slow French. It's not designed for native French speakers. It's the news for people who are learning French, right? Find something like that. That's the kind of input you should be looking for. Ryan says, just saw a Matt versus Japan video on shadowing. Do you do shadowing, and how do you improve your accent? Yes, I use Pimsleur. And Helen says, do you live here on YouTube? No. All right, and I'm going to end this video here. Okay, says, I think Linkspace stopped uploading videos a year ago. Yeah, it's really sad. Yeah, the book is called The Little Dragon in English. In Spanish, it's El Dragoncito. In French, it's Le Petit Dragon. And in Tokipona, it's Akasi Seli Lili. You might have to email me about the Thai one if you're looking for Thai here. My email is fingtam.languages@gmail.com. You might have to email me if you want the Thai book, because Amazon has some, like Amazon Kindle has had this weird thing about you can't upload a book that's in Thai. They only accept certain languages. But if you want the Thai book, you can email me about that. Anyways, I appreciate everyone who watched and commented. I love your questions. I love getting to know you guys. And if you have other questions, you can leave them in the comment section of the video, or email me, or message me on Twitter, whatever. All right, thanks for watching. See you later. Bye-bye.